unless you're tagging out every single year and it's not hard for you, then you need to be looking for advantages. Growing up, that's the only time we ever hunted. We never hunted in the afternoons.
I do feel like a lot of the bigger deer, at least on the places I hunt, they move more frequently, I guess, in the afternoons. I mean, when I started, I much rather would have hunted in the morning than I did in the afternoon. I just felt like deer were going to move more in the mornings.
You're listening to the Hunt More Official Podcast with Jonathan Moore and Hunter Myrick. By diving into their past experiences, this podcast focuses on the learning process of hunting big bucks in the South. Follow along and let's hunt more official.
Well, let's jump into it, man. We've got some things that we had talked about earlier in the week we were going to talk about this week on the podcast, but I'm going to kind of start with the bow hunting versus gun hunting deal that we brought up. I think that'd be a great topic.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of go this way with it first. I mean, when you started hunting, you probably, like everybody else, you started rifle hunting, or did you start like both?
I started rifle hunting, but I think I started bow hunting. Shoot, I don't know, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I know I started using the climb right around the boat because my dad had me climb a telephone pole in a rainstorm. So needless to say, the bottom dropped out a few times. I think I bow hunted deer after that, so probably 13. So.
Yeah. Did you just get into it because it was kind of what is the thing to do, or was it something like you wanted to do, or is it just kind of a natural way of gravitation?
I really don't remember. I feel like my dad just asked me if I wanted to start bow hunting. Because it gives you another 6 weeks hunting season.
That's for sure.
I got handed the bow and said, "Go shoot."
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it when I started bow hunting. Was you got more time? I mean, you just got to hunt a little more.
I can't remember when I killed my first deer with my bow. It might have been, I don't know if I can drive yet, or it might have been the first year I started driving.
Right.
I shot a handful of those the first year. I think I shot a 3-point. I think that was my first buck with a bow. Was a 3-point. We didn't find him.
No, you didn't find him?
No, we did.
Oh, okay.
We didn't find him that afternoon, and my dad went back. I think he went back the next day. Deer probably didn't run. He ran less than 100 yards. He just didn't run what we thought he ran. We didn't have a good blood trail. We were using them old muzzies that you can buy and put together from Walmart.
Right. Shoot, I was out of college when I started bow hunting, but we'll kind of stay right there on your little 3-point for a minute. I tell a lot of people, I mean, if you ain't killed a buck with your bow, fire one up. I mean, don't be picky about it. The first one I shot was like a little basket 8-point. I mean, I lucked out it being that deer. I mean, I probably could have shot a spike at one point, but I didn't. I killed a 3-point with my rifle. That was the first deer I ever killed. And so from that point, I kind of just started climbing the ladder as far as size goes. But
that was back before cameras, so
yeah.
For all we knew, that's all we had was the 3. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the place I shot that buck, my first buck with my bow, we didn't have no cameras in that spot. We had seen a bunch of deer in that spot, and probably seen some bigger deer in that spot. Now that I think of it, but I mean, I'll never forget it. Fired him up, shot him in the gut, chug ran off.
It's funny though, because that actually ended up being a really good spot for us. So you could go in there, it wasn't nothing to go in there and see 15, 20 deer.
Really?
Yeah, it actually ended up being a really good spot. I think that might have been the first year we hunted. It was the first year I killed my bow with it. I know my dad killed another 7 or 8 point with his bow. He was sitting, because back then I was still young, so I'm pretty sure that's before I kind of started hunting by myself. He climbed a tree like, I don't know, 15 yards behind me. And there was a 7-point or 8-point coming off the hill straight to me. And he shot him before he got there.
No, he didn't.
man, you a punk. Yeah, he did. And you know what he said? He said, I thought he was about to spell you. He ain't going to spell nothing when he got an arrow in him.
Oh, my gosh. That is so funny, man. The folks listening to this, they just got to know your dad, but that is so funny to me. I can't believe he did that. 100% believe he did that.
Well, he was still young and spry back then.
Yeah, he was ready to kill him, boy.
Yeah, he don't have as much fight in him as he did then.
Yeah. So when you started bow hunting, did it kind of like strike you right off as like something you were fired up to do, or was it just kind of 6 weeks of hunting season and you was grabbing your rifle type deal?
Yeah, it was as soon as bow season was over, it was open up.
I'm gonna put it in the closet.
Yeah. Especially back then, we didn't have corn and cameras back then.
Now,
you might climb up in the woods and sit there 80 yards away. You got your bow in your hand.
Yeah, you pouting
you ain't shooting. If you got your gun in your hand, you might get a shot at him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's always been, I think my dad grew up bow hunting a lot. I think he hunted public land quite a bit.
Yeah.
But once you start hunting private, you can get the gun out. Back then, anyway, you can get the gun out.
Yeah. And to a lot of people, it's still that way now. That's kind of how they feel. I don't necessarily feel that way now. I've had a lot of situations where if I had a rifle, I could have a lot of dead deer.
Right.
And a lot of pretty good dead deer. But in the same sense, I got into, when I shot my first deer with my bow, it was like, that was it for me. I was like done with it. All I wanted to do was shoot one with a bow.
It's definitely a different feeling.
I killed this big deer right here that I'm looking at. When I shot him, before that, I probably was a little 50-50 as far as hunting with my gun and hunting with my bow. But when I shot him, that feeling of just, having a big deer that close and being able to kill him without him knowing that you're standing there, that's all I care about when it comes to deer hunting now.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, rifle hunting versus bow hunting? Just kind of favorite, I guess.
I'd say bow hunting's definitely my favorite. Just because there's more things have to go your way.
Yeah.
You can cheat the wind a lot more with a gun, I would say. So,
oh, yeah.
With the bow, even if you got I know I always go back to the corn pile, but even if you got a corn pile, everything still has to go right.
Yeah, it does.
It's not like you dump a pile of corn out and then here they come and they stand there and let you shoot them.
That's right.
It definitely makes it easier. It definitely increases your chances of getting them in bow range. But
right. It doesn't necessarily make killing them any easier.
Not necessarily. It might give you an opportunity you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Right.
On that given day, anyways. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen a week from now, but
right.
Without corn, but I would say bow hunting's it's my favorite, just because so much more has to go your way, and it seems like you shoot them and you assume you hit them good, and there's just so much more anticipation.
Yeah, the adrenaline lasts a lot longer to me.
Yeah.
You can ride it out a little bit.
Yeah, you shoot them with a gun and they hit the dirt right there. Phone call. I did it. And by the time you get down, you see them, you're excited, and it's all right. The process will go.
That's right.
Then you cut them up to the spinner rack. It's.
Yeah. I feel that. I'm the same way. I like bow hunting a lot more than I do gun hunting. But in the same sense, like this past year, Ashley started wanting to go hunting. So I took her a couple times and we took the rifle. And the first night we went, a hog come out. She didn't want to shoot it. She'd already climbed down the ladder. She was at the bottom of the tree. And so I said, hand me that rifle. So I climbed down there and grabbed it, climbed back up the ladder, turned around and shot. And that was the first time I'd pulled the trigger on a rifle in probably 2 years, maybe 3. And man, when I shot, I just felt good about it. And so I said, let's walk down here and see what we got. And before I got down there, the camera went off and you could see the hog flopping. And so I was like, heck yeah. And I was all fired up. It was kind of real quick type deal. and then it was all over with. But bow hunting, I think it's more of like a sigh of relief when you get there and it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my adrenaline's pumping, but to get there and know that, I mean, everything went the way it's supposed to go, and there he is, it's a whole lot more. I feel a lot more relaxed than I do when I shoot him with a rifle. With a rifle, I'm more hyped up. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different feel.
Yeah.
There's just
that I'll just kind of move on into shooting does a little bit, because I mean we've all shot a bunch of does with our bow. I really don't care to ever shoot another doe with my rifle, honestly. It's fun to shoot does with a bow, but in regards to shooting does, what's your thoughts on like shooting them? How many, I guess, or when do you shoot them versus when you don't shoot them?
To be honest, I don't really like shooting does. Doesn't matter what I got.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just don't. If I shoot a doe, it's for me.
Yeah, that's the only. I mean, I love it because that's what I see. I don't kill I don't kill as many bucks as you.
Yeah. It's a mixed bag, though. You hear some people say you got to shoot 30 does on this property in order for your bucks to be as big as they're going to be. You hear some people that don't shoot any does, and they got big bucks around everywhere. And they got just as many does as the other guy.
Right.
Really, though, I mean, we can start shooting does here 10 days after season opens. I typically try to shoot one with my bow just for the freezer, and I won't shoot a doe that's got bones. Because our deer, I mean, they might have spots on them to the rut, and it's hard to say.
Right.
So I don't. It's hard for us to shoot does because they got.
Say that again. You cut out.
I said it's hard for us to shoot does because if you don't want to shoot does that got bones with them.
Yeah. Your window to do that is very small, truthfully.
Yeah, and it might be during prime time during the rut.
That's right.
You know, they lost their spots and they can fend for themselves. But even then, I don't really like to shoot those.
Yeah.
Even if they got a farm with them that don't have spots.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, there's some places that I hunt here that, I mean, you'll see fawns that'll just now be losing their spots, and some of the bucks will be a little ruddy. And I mean, it kind of puts you in that situation where, I mean, is it really worth me shooting a doe right now? Like,
hey man, I think my dad sent me a picture. It might not have been my dad. It might have been somebody else. Sent me a picture of a deer with spots.
That was what?
After season was over this year.
That is nuts. So the deer had spots. Season went out and deer had spots.
I think my dad sent me that. It could have been somebody else. I think it was my dad. So it's hard for us. I mean,
that's crazy.
If I'm going to shoot a doe, I'm probably going to shoot one doe a year.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she'll shoot one or two a year.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't shoot any that have fawns with them, even if they don't have spots.
Right.
We try to target the ones that maybe either A, can't get pregnant, or B, just don't produce.
Right, yeah.
You know, they might produce every other year, but we try to target the ones that don't have spots. But to get back to your question, I don't really know if you have to shoot does for the property to have big deer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say, I mean, I'm like, you know, you hear it a lot. I mean, some folks, and I think a lot of it depends on property size too. They say you need to shoot a lot of does. Some say you don't really need to shoot any does. But I think it's 100% property specific. I mean, you could have a small piece of property, like you take the 40 in Pine Level. You got a small piece of property that you don't kill any does off of that place.
Right.
And there will be big deer on that place that you can kill every year.
Right, but the only problem with the 40 is you might have 3 or 4 does.
Yeah, right.
So
they don't have a lot of does, just period. There's just not a lot of does that live there. So, I mean, it wouldn't do you no good to go in there and try to kill 6 or 7. Because, I mean, that property just ain't built like that. It ain't set up like that.
So. It's nothing to go hunt there and see 2 or 3 does and 10 or 12 bucks in one afternoon.
Yeah, that place is just backwards, boy.
And it's great, but where it comes the problem is during rut.
Mm-hmm.
Your 2 or 3 does come in heat, they bust them and they're gone.
That's right.
They're off looking for the next.
Yeah, in and out. And I mean, I heard something the other day, I think I sent it to you, where a guy was talking about on smaller properties, you want to try to have as many as you can. I mean, like the 40 in Pine Level, it just don't hold a lot of does. For some reason, it don't. But some properties, small properties, they can hold a pretty good amount of does. And the guy was basically saying that you need to let them hold those does because of it'll keep the bucks there longer during the rut. Because they're going to try to breed all those does before they go running off finding other ones.
Right, that's the problem.
That's a good point.
That's the problem with the 40. I don't think we've shot a doe off the 40. She shot her first deer on the 40. 6 years ago. That's the first and last time a doe has been killed off that place 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So we don't have any more does now than we did 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's wild. I think, I mean, if you're one of those people and you're trying to figure out how many does do you shoot, I think you just got to kind of take a step back and look at your property and just see how how it sets up. Like, I mean, is it a place that, I mean, do you think a place ever really has too many does if it's a smaller piece of property?
I mean, I think it's possible.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think you could put a number on it. Because
I personally can't put a number on it.
Right. I mean, I couldn't either. I don't know. I think it's so property specific.
Yeah. One thing I heard a long time ago, if you got a small property, try to shoot your neighbor's does. No, I'm serious. The ones that come from your neighbor's property to your property to eat your food.
That is so funny, though. I mean, you see it. You see where deer come from.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting on a food plot, and you got 3 to 5 does that come out the center of your place, and you got 35 does that come off your neighbors. Shoot one. What I heard at that point in time, shoot one of their does.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, and I hadn't even really thought about that.
Yeah.
I mean, because you may sit there and you may have 4 or 5 come from over here, and then 2 or 3 come from over there, and that way's your neighbors. I mean, let's just hang tight and fire one of them up.
Right, that's what I heard. Shoot, I think the doe that was killed off the 40 6 years ago, that doe came off the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll kind of move us into another topic just because we got time here. Let's talk a little bit about morning hunting. This is kind of off the cuff. We didn't really mention this past week, but morning hunts. What's your thoughts on hunting in the mornings?
Growing up, that's the only time we ever hunted. We never hunted in the afternoons.
Really?
Yeah, never. But I mean, we didn't run. It's hard for us to hunt in the mornings now because we run corn.
Yeah.
Back then, we didn't run corn, so you could get to your stand. I mean, you would still run off deer occasionally, but
right.
You put a corn pile and you try to access it in the morning.
Yeah.
Especially early season. Good freaking luck.
Yeah, you ain't getting in, bro.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always liked hunting mornings because you can go hunt, you can get home and do what you got to do.
Right.
But throughout the years, I started gravitating more towards afternoons. I've had a lot of luck in afternoons past years too.
Mm-hmm.
That helps. Having luck in afternoons helps. But
yeah,
growing up, we never hunted in the afternoons.
That's pretty good. I mean, when I started, I much rather would have hunted in the morning than I did in the afternoon. I just felt like deer were going to move more in the mornings versus the afternoons. Right. But over time, I mean, I've started running a lot more corn over the last few years, but I have noticed, just like you, that if you pull corn, good luck getting in the morning. I mean, it's a lot easier during the rut for me to get in the morning than it is, like you say, early season. But even then, a lot of times I'm forced to go in like right at daylight. Sometimes I would like to go in early, like earlier than, 8 as daylight's breaking. But because deer are just now leaving the corn pile or something, you got to kind of wait them out, let them get gone, and then get in there. But I do like personally hunting afternoons better. Now, I do feel like a lot of the bigger deer, at least on the places I hunt, they move more, or more frequently, I guess, in the afternoons. They daylight more in the afternoons than they do in the mornings. But, I mean, that's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, it's, I've had to argue about that one. He's had a lot more luck in the mornings.
Yeah.
And the last growing up, we had luck in the mornings, but at the same time, that's the only time we hunted. So,
it was tough to say.
Right. Then I have noticed, as season goes on, it seems like the deer get to those corn piles later.
Yeah.
So it seems like later in the year you can get away with slipping in there in the mornings.
But
personally, I don't really care too much to get in the stand early.
Yeah.
I kind of like getting in there where you can see without a flashlight. It's not legal shooting light yet, but you can still see without a flashlight.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've told me a lot of times that you, quote, hunt your way in. And I think that's interesting. That'd be an interesting topic to kind of venture off on for a minute, too, is, how you go about getting in there. Because you've been that way for a while. You've never really been one to go in early.
No, I don't go in early and I don't go in fast.
I
like to try to listen as I work my way in.
Yeah.
Because really, hunt your way in is the way of saying it, but you might learn something that you didn't know because you went in slower. And say you keep bumping deer, and it's always off a specific spot. But if you're blowing and going, walking 100 miles an hour, you might not have heard it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're running off, blends in when you're walking.
Well, I'll piggyback on you right there. I had a spot that I was hunting this year, and it was back in November. I remember texting you about it. And I kept trying to go in. I had some time where I could go like a few days that week during the mornings. And one day I got in there quiet. And I would kind of put your little tactic to the test. I was going slow. Listening and not really being in a hurry at all. And 3 out of probably 4 of those mornings, man, I was bumping deer left and right. But what I did, I'd stop and just sit there for a minute. And as those deer would move around, they wouldn't run off. They'd blow and they'd bounce over here, but I could kind of tell where they were going and I was able to kind of figure out what they were doing. And so it allowed me to kind of adjust how I was hunting that spot. So, I think it's a good tactic. It's an opinion, obviously. Some folks are those kind of people. They like to get in there way before daylight. They like to beat the buck back to his, they like to get in there early. And I'm all for that too. That's the way you like to do it. But, man, it is nice to not be up too early, ain't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, though, is we're not hunting public land, so we don't have to beat anybody to the tree stand.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have that luxury.
That's true.
Right?
100%. I tip my hat to people that do that. Because that's tough.
If you're walking slower, you're probably quieter. And you could possibly sound more like a deer moving through the woods.
You're correct.
How often does a deer walk without stopping?
Oh, yeah. They always stop.
Yeah, they're stopping, checking. So if you're kind of doing the same thing as you ease in, you might bump a deer, but they're not really sure what they heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they might bump off and still be like, okay, I'm not real sure what that was, but
I didn't
run out of there 100 miles an hour.
You're right. Especially when it's dark. They're never really sure.
Right.
Yeah,
now,
I think that's good.
This year, one thing I started doing, just because property hunting this year was different, is hilling. So once I was walking to the stand, if I came to a point where I was exposed, I would stop as I get to that point. I wouldn't walk through it. I'd stop, and I would kind of look and listen. Okay, I think I'm good, so I won't kind of ease through here. I wouldn't just blow through it.
Right. I mean, all this is good stuff, because I think a lot of folks do get to that point where they just kind of look past it and it's time to go hunting, and they just leave the truck walking and they just go. And they walk right through the woods. And I mean, I don't ever really remember hearing deer run off when I just was stomping. But when I've gone slow, you can hear it. I mean, you can kind of figure out what's going on, and you'll realize that there's deer close to you. I mean, when you walk to your stand, there's some deer that you're not really far away from.
Right. And I would say on morning hunts, I would hunt my way out. I'm not really physically, hunting.
Right.
Of course, if a big deer stands in front of me, I'm going to shoot it.
That's right.
It's more or less scouting my way out, looking for tracks. And I know growing up, when I hunted the 40, I didn't know a lot about it. If I was walking out that morning and I got on a bunch of tracks, I would follow those tracks right where they led me.
Right.
So I mean, especially on new properties, I feel like you always need to be looking and try to learn.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I could knock myself a little bit, because I haven't really, I've walked my property a pretty good bit, but there are some things that, I probably haven't ventured down that trail at the right time, if you know what I mean. Like, I see tracks on it, but I'm leaving, going out, or I'm just coming in here to pour corn or something, and I don't ever take the time to walk it while it's hot, if that makes sense. And I need to probably do that more. Even like whether it's on the way out hunting or on the way out feeding a corn pile or whatever, but you can pick up on sign like that if you'll slow yourself down.
Yeah, and you might booger a spot up for a few weeks by doing that, but right. That's knowledge you're putting in the bank for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're killing deer, unless you're tagging out every single year and it's not hard for you, then you need to be looking for advantages.
I agree with you, dude. I agree. Especially like you say on new properties, do it sooner the better, because the faster you figure it out, the better it's going to be down the road. You may have to figure it up to figure it out, but that's just part of it. We've talked about that on here too before. Don't necessarily be afraid to blow the deer out. Go in there and figure out what they're doing.
That's real-time information too. So say they're hitting that specific trail for this 2-week period. You go figure out why. Then next year, hey, I can set up on this trail this time of year, and I may have an opportunity.
That's right.
Because you've seen it over the last 3 years in deer I've had on camera. There's some deer that you don't have all year, but you got them for 2 weeks out of the year, and it's about the same.
That's right. You got deer on your wall right now. I believe it's just about full of deer on your wall's full of deer that have been killed by that strategy. Paying attention to when they're there, what time of year they use that place, and being there when they're supposed to be there.
Right, and apply that to the next year. You may not catch up with them that year, but
that's right.
If you apply that and they make it to next year,
then you'll have a chance.
You have a leg up on them.
That's
a leg up you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, that's very good stuff. I'll just kind of take a minute. We'll just pause here. You got anything else you want to add to that? That's good.
What do you mean?
Just that little topic we were talking about right there.
Kind of working your way in and out.
That's just a good point. I don't think a lot of people take that. I know I've never really paid attention to it, dude, until truthfully, this year, man. This year was the first year I really started doing that. You had mentioned it to me like a handful of different times in like text messages or something, and I thought, I'm fixing to try this junk. And so I started going super slow. And I bumped a lot of deer, but what I figured out is that, okay, dude, you need to quit hunting that spot, because they in there all the time at that period, at that point in time. So you're going to have to figure out another way to hunt those deer. And I left it alone.
Another time to hunt those deer.
Or another time. You could get in there in the afternoon, but I'm still on the fence. That spot's still on the drawing board. I'm trying to figure it out still. But
it's in the middle.
Yeah, it's in the middle for sure. But it's, I mean, I wouldn't have never really seen it like that had I not been taking my time going in. I mean, I'd have blown deer out way before I got there just because of stomping to the tree.
You mentioned hunting your way in, hunting your way out. It's more or less just observing your way in and out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the blatant way to put it for sure.
But trail camera's doing the same thing for you. The trail camera's hunting for you when you can't be there.
Right.
How many deer would you say I pegged on camera because I paid attention to when they were there, while they were there, what were the conditions, what was the time of year, and they did the exact same thing next year?
I mean, I could just about count 3. And some of those
all been on.
That you said that you've killed?
Killed, I would say 1.
Right, the one that's on the 5 point or 6 point, whatever it was, that come out of Pine Level.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But you can count a couple of deer that I've said, okay.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you got
here then.
Mm-hmm. You got number 1, the 7 point in Pine Level. Then you had, I mean, you pegged the 7 point at the 600 too. And I mean, that deer ought to die. That deer should have died. But I mean, that's 2 that I know of right off the top.
Stumpy out of Pine Level.
That's right. Yeah, I just blanked on him. That's another one. I mean, they're a handful of them.
Yeah, you're just applying last year's knowledge. Say, I bet your butt if we get those conditions again, they're going to do it again.
That's right.
And they do it.
Uh-huh.
Right? But who's to say they didn't do it on a Tuesday while you're at work?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
You can't control when the conditions are, but your cameras are hunting for you too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just say, oh, he daylighted.
Yeah.
Or this deer's new. He's here during the day. Take those pictures. Why is this deer here? He's new. Why did he show up today? Mm-hmm. And let's say next month, same thing happens. Okay, well, this is the same exact conditions as last month.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right, so a year passes by, you didn't kill him.
Uh-huh.
And he does it again the next year. Same, and you go back like, dang, he did it. Same conditions. Mm-hmm. Everything's the same, and he done it again. Mm-hmm. Deer do that.
They do. I mean,
you know what I mean?
And when you start doing that, I mean, I know when a lot of folks think about it, they're probably like, I mean, how do you just figure it out? I mean, there's specific things, especially those that are new hunters. There's specific things that go into that. Stumpy was one of those deer that you pegged off the full moon.
Full moon and wind direction.
Right. And I mean, that's just 2 things right there that you kind of look at. Temperatures are probably another thing that you look at.
Not on him, it didn't matter. Yeah. He was a east wind and a full moon type of deer for 2 years in a row. Yeah. And if it was cold, he would daylight. If it was not cold, he would be there at night. But he would only be there for a 3 or 4 day period.
Yeah, and then
basically once a month for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and he was gone.
So then he was gone. So you could spend your whole season hunting that deer when realistically you only had a chance at him for 3 days out of a month.
Wow, man. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're not paying attention to that stuff, if you're not really like trying to peg a deer, then you just enjoy in the woods. you hunt a ghost majority of the year. Right, well, if he's one of those kind of deer. I mean, unless he's just one that lives there 90% of the year, then he's probably only on that place for a reason certain times of the year.
Yeah, and like Tank, for example, the deer
that deer I was hunting on the wall a couple years ago.
He was, I think, 3 years. He was on camera, but he would only show up between about Christmas and the first or second week of January. Yeah. And he was there then. He was going after it. There wasn't no in between. He might be there once in the summer and say, "Hey, I'm still alive." Bye. Right. But you're not going to kill. I knew I wasn't going to kill that deer until Christmas. So that deer specifically, I killed him on the 3rd year, I think. I got an east wind on the day I was off of work because of Christmas holiday, December 26th. Yeah. I got an east wind. It was still cold. It hadn't switched to warming up yet. It was kind of coming off that. We had a cold front come through. Wind was coming out of the northwest, and it was swinging its way east. It was still cool, But, the next day or two, he's going to start warming up. It's like, hey, I'm going back in there. Because this is what he's supposed to. He hadn't even been there. I think he'd been there once or twice before that at night.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, he's going to happen.
Fixing to show up.
He's going to, and he did. And I killed him.
Uh-huh.
I saw like 12. But, if you don't use your camera as a tool, which is what it is.
Yeah.
That's not something you necessarily pick up on. And I could have missed that hunt that afternoon not knowing that.
Yeah, you could have been somewhere else.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But it's because I've paid attention to those little things. I don't get into the pressure and all of that, just because that's a lot to keep up with. And we got kids. That's hard to do.
You're right. You're right.
I more or less pay attention to moon phase, wind direction specifically. I would say wind direction probably trumps all.
I do. I think so too. I mean, that's going to determine how they're getting there for sure, and why they're standing there.
Yeah, and temperature. I mean, I think obviously if it's colder, they move.
Probably going to move more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm better at maybe pegging deer that aren't mine.
Yeah.
Per se, I guess would you say that?
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. Because the ones that are yours, I feel like you either got them pegged or they fixing to take you for a run.
Right.
Unless you got a really small piece of property and it's kind of not hard to figure out. But I mean, like you take the 7-point from the 600. I mean, y'all chase that deer forever.
He's still alive.
And yes, deer's still alive. And y'all ain't. I mean, he still ain't. Nobody's really had a chance to kill him yet. And
right, I always told you he's a really weird deer.
He's just old strange joker.
Yeah, he don't like any company. He likes to be by himself. Even during the summer, he don't like being around other deer.
Yeah, I've always been amazed though at how and I think it's a knack, dude. To me, it's a gift at your knack for just kind of understanding deer from the tools that you have. I mean, you didn't go to school for this. I mean, we ain't claiming to be no experts here, but from experience, I mean, you can kind of peg the personality of a deer to me. You kind of knew that tank deer was old fighty joker, old mean joker, running deer out. And same thing with the 7-point. I mean, you kind of peg him as one of those deer that he don't like nobody being around him.
In their place.
Yeah. But that's cool. Well, man, I think this has been a great little episode. You got something else?
Yeah, I just think it's easy for us to talk about, but I think most people have experienced it with us personally. They don't fully comprehend it.
Oh, no. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, you're never really going to understand it until you're living it, in my opinion.
Right.
And, I mean, I believe that the places we hunt, I stand firm on it, dude. It's just different than what a lot of people hunt. Especially when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about what you see on TV. It's just different. I mean, it's tough to hunt. And if you don't pay attention to some of these things that we talk about, you're just going to bang your head against the wall a lot of times. And it's going to be like all luck on the big deer that you kill. In my opinion. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not harder than hunting public land.
No, I mean, public land is a beast that we can't even really stand on and talk about.
I don't think it's as easy as maybe some people that only hunt public land may think it is.
Right.
A mature deer is hard to kill regardless. It don't matter if you put them on public or if you put them on private. They got mature for a reason.
That's right. 100%.
I would definitely say it's easier on private land because you can control more or less what goes on throughout property and what goes where and where you feed,
what you shoot, what you don't shoot.
What you shoot, what you don't shoot. Mm-hmm. Whereas public land, you're at the mercy of the people.
That's right.
So I would say that's where public land maybe gets more difficult. If you don't want to pressure a deer for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, you don't really have that luxury on public land.
Yeah.
You're kind of at the mercy of them. If
you're at the mercy of the people just as much as yours. Right. You can't just, you can walk 2 miles and get away from somebody, but at the same time, who's to say there aren't 2 or 3 other people like you that are willing to put that kind of work in?
That's right. And the way it's going, I mean, you see it now. You get on YouTube, you see it on TV sometimes too, but there's a lot of folks getting into the public land. I mean, I've hunted some one time, and I'd be up for hunting it again. But I think it's, I mean, to each his own. If that's all you got, then that's what you got to hunt. And if that's all you know, then, I mean, that's really all you can kind of have an opinion on. But, I mean, private land, you do have much more control of kind of how you go about dealing with your deer.
Yeah, I would say that's where private land becomes easier. You have more control over not necessarily the deer, but
right,
how you approach the deer, I guess.
Yeah, hunting them. I mean, the whole thing. That's good stuff. Well, we'll kind of wrap it up on that, dude. I mean, you got a tip of the week this week?
Pay attention to your trail cameras. They're not just sending you pictures of all these big, pretty deer. They're telling you something.
100%. I mean, I'm bad about that. I'm quick to send a picture and not even check why he's there. I'm quick to do that. I would say take advantage of scouting or observing your way in and out when you're hunting. I think that was a big thing for me this year. I think it could be big for a lot of people.
When you're getting real time information.
Yeah.
You know, if you scout before season, you're getting information that was late from last year or even early this year. Or if you scout after season, you're getting information that could have been just happening that week. Right. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You might find a rub line that's just burned up, but he didn't burn it up until 2 days before season closed.
Well, I mean, I know my place, I had a bunch of rub lines that were there from summer bucks. And I saw them in the summer. And so when I went back and scouted, I saw something, I was like, I remember that from the summer. So that ain't really telling me nothing now.
Right. I mean, if you scout after deer season, I mean, you might find information that's going to help you later in the year. But it may not apply when season first opens. And a lot of times it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it does. Some spots are just those spots. They're good year round.
That's right.
But some spots are only good certain times of year, and the only way to figure that out is to scout and to hunt. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
Really, you got to hunt. I mean, you got to be there because cameras don't tell you everything.
No.
But they do. They do help.
Yeah. That's great stuff. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in with us. Thank you so much. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Hopefully some of this stuff is relating to you, especially those new guys that are getting into hunting. So, again, thank you. We'll catch you again next week. Have a great one. Hunt more.